Far away in the Orion Arm, the Zorthon Empire had been the strongest power for hundreds of years. Their fleets ruled the space lanes. Their colonies spread across dozens of star systems. The name of the Zorthons brought fear to many. They had fought wars and won them all. But now, there was a new name being whispered across the galaxy. That name was humanity. Humans had grown fast, building colonies and ships in record time. Some called them reckless. Others called them dangerous. No one could deny that they were rising quickly. Admiral Carther sat in the Grand Command Hall of the Zorthon High Command. Tall, broad-shouldered, and with eyes that burned with pride, he listened to his officers report human activities near the border. Small outposts and trade routes had started to appear in systems the Zorthons claimed as their own. Many in the council spoke with caution. They had heard the stories. Rumors told of human fleets defeating larger enemies. Whispers told of a battle with the Krell, where humans had destroyed an armada in hours. Carther, however, did not believe such tales. In his mind, humans were still young and inexperienced. They had no right to stand in Zorthon space. While the Zorthons debated, on the other side of the frontier, Captain Laura Bennett stood on the bridge of the horizon. Her ship was sleek and fast, built for long-range patrols. She was calm, but focused. The orders from Fleet Command were clear. She was to investigate Zorthon movements and ensure the safety of nearby colonies. The Zorthons had been sending more ships toward the border. It was not yet war, but tension was growing. Laura knew the danger of such missions. One wrong move could start a fight no one could stop. Her crew worked quietly. Screens glowed with data. A navigation officer, young and nervous, called out, "Captain, we are detecting several large vessels ahead. They are Zorthon warships." Laura stepped closer to the main display. 6 massive ships filled the scanner. They were on a direct course toward a human supply convoy carrying food, medicine, and building materials to the outer colonies. On the Zorthon flagship, Carther watched the same convoy on his screen. "Slow them down. Send a message to surrender. Let them know they are trespassing," he ordered. His voice was calm, but there was an edge of arrogance. The Zorthon fleet moved into position, blocking the convoy's path. A message was sent. It was short and sharp. "This is Zorthon territory. Turn back or be destroyed." The convoy did not respond right away. They sent a distress call to the horizon, and Laura received it within seconds. She knew she had little time. Her ship moved fast, engines burning bright as they closed the distance. As the horizon arrived, Laura ordered her communications officer to open a channel to the Zorthons. "This is Captain Laura Bennett of the Horizon. The convoy is traveling through neutral space. Stand down and clear the way." Her tone was steady but firm. Carther appeared on the main screen, his face lit by the dim blue glow of the command deck. "Humans," he said, almost with a sneer. "You spread like fire into places that do not belong to you. Leave now, or your ships will be dust." Laura did not look away. "This space does not belong to you either. We are willing to talk, but we will defend our people." Around them, the two forces stood in a silent standoff. Weapons were not yet fired, but shields began to power up. Crew members on both sides felt the weight of the moment. In the quiet, the hum of engines and the soft beeps of control panels were the only sounds. Everyone knew that one wrong decision could bring chaos, while both sides faced each other. A third signal appeared on the horizon sensors. It was a small vessel, old and patched together, carrying no weapons. It moved slowly toward the conflict. The captain was a trader named Varin, a tall, thin alien with scales that shimmered in the light. Varin had seen wars before. He had been in systems when human ships had arrived, and he knew what had happened to those who underestimated them. He sent a private message to Carther. His voice was calm, but there was warning in it. Do not attack the humans. I have seen. What happens to those who do? Your empire will not survive it. Carther's expression darkened. You are a merchant, not a soldier. Leave this matter to warriors. He cut the channel without another word. The horizon continued to shadow the convoy. Zorthon ships moved closer. The tension grew like a coiled spring. Laura ordered her crew to stay ready. Shields up. Weapons charged, but do not fire unless fired upon. The convoy kept moving slowly, hoping to pass through without bloodshed. Every crew member could feel the moments stretching longer and tighter. Carther watched and waited, convinced that a show of force would make the humans retreat. He did not know that in human space, orders had already been sent to prepare the fleet. Far from this quiet standoff, massive ships were coming online, their crews boarding, their engines warming. Humanity had been tested before, and when they were challenged, they responded with force. This time would be no different. The two sides hung in the void, locked in a silent, dangerous dance. Neither had yet made the first move. But in the depths of space, silence was often the calm before the storm. Asterisk, the standoff in space dragged on. The human convoy kept moving at a slow, careful pace. The Zorthon fleet stayed in their path, daring them to cross. On the horizon, Captain Laura Bennett stood near the central display, watching every movement. She knew one mistake could turn the calm into sudden fire. Her crew worked in silence, hands steady but eyes tense. The soft glow of consoles reflected off their faces. Laura's communications officer spoke up. Captain, incoming signal. It's from the small vessel approaching. Laura nodded. Put it through. The main screen flickered, and the image of Varen, the alien trader, appeared. His narrow face and shimmering scales gave him an almost ghostly look under the dim light of his ship. Captain Bennett, Varen began, his voice low and calm. You do not know me, but I know your people. I have seen your fleets in battle, and I have seen what happens to those who challenge them. Laura listened quietly, her eyes narrowing. You're warning me about the Zorthons. I am warning both of you, Varen said. These Zorthon commanders think they can push humans, as they do with other races. They believe your ships are small and your numbers are few. They are wrong. If they strike you, they will lose more than they can imagine. Before Laura could reply, another voice broke into the channel. Admiral Carther's face appeared on the split screen, his deep voice filled with scorn. Traitor, your words are worthless. Leave this space before you are swept away. Varen turned his head slightly toward Carther. I was there when the Krell Empire thought the same. They sent hundreds of warships to crush a human colony. By the time the battle ended, their fleets were gone, their cities burning. I walked through the ruins. I saw the cost. You will see it too if you strike them. Carther's expression tightened, but his voice stayed cold. You speak like a frightened child. The Zorthon Empire has crushed empires greater than the humans. They will bend. The traitor leaned closer to the camera, his scales catching the light. Perhaps you will find out. But remember this, they will not fight to take your land. They will fight to end you. And when it is over, your empire will be nothing but ashes. Without another word, Carther cut the channel. His ships adjusted their position, closing in on the convoy. Varen sighed and turned back to Laura. I have done what I can. The choice is now theirs, and yours. His image vanished from the screen. On the horizon, Laura gave a quiet order. Send a coded message to Fleet Command. Them know the Zorthons are preparing to engage. Her crew moved quickly, sending the encrypted signal across the stars. Far away, in the heart of human space, the message reached the Sol Defense Council. Admirals and senior officers gathered around a long, dark table. The air was tense. Commander. Ethan Cole, stationed on the Dreadnought Sentinel, received his orders at the same time. His ship was to join the Rapid Response Fleet and be ready for combat. Ethan had heard the Zorthon's name before, but he also knew humanity's history. When provoked, humans did not fight for a draw. They fought to win, and to win so completely that no one dared try again. Back at the border, the Zorthons grew, impatient. Carther ordered one of his destroyers to move forward, passing dangerously close to the convoy's lead ship. The humans stayed in formation, shields active, weapons still silent. Laura kept her voice steady. Hold position. We don't fire unless they do. But if they fire first, we end this quickly. Her tactical officer spoke quietly. Captain, if they attack, we cannot win this fight alone. I know, Laura replied. But we won't be alone for long. She thought of the countless ships now preparing to leave dockyards across human space. If the Zorthons lit the spark, they would face a fire they could not put out. Another message came through, this time from the convoy. Captain Bennett, our crews are frightened. What should we do? Laura answered firmly. Stay. In formation, keep moving forward. If they try to board you, we'll stop them. Her voice carried no fear, only calm certainty. In the Zorthon flagship, Carther leaned back in his chair. He had heard Varen's warning, but he dismissed it from his mind. To him, humans were just another challenge to crush. Yet deep inside, a small thought tried to take root. What if the traitor was right? He pushed it away. Pride would not allow doubt. His second officer approached. Admiral, our fleet is in position. Shall we fire a warning shot? Carther smiled faintly. Yes, let them see our strength. Moments later, a bright beam of energy shot across the void, passing just ahead of the convoy's lead ship. Space between the two fleets seemed to tremble with tension. On the horizon, alarms sounded. Crew members looked to Laura, waiting for her command. She simply said, "Hold your ground." But somewhere in the darkness beyond, powerful human warships were already on the move. Engines roared to life, weapons were armed, and fleets began to gather. If the Zorthons took the next step, there would be no turning back. The traitor Varen watched from a distance, his small ship drifting at the edge of the conflict. He shook his head slowly. He had done what he could. The galaxy would witness. What happened when the Zorthons tested the one force they should have feared most? The quiet before the storm stretched on, but the storm was already coming. The moment came without warning. In the cold emptiness of space, the Zorthon destroyer fired. A beam of searing energy struck the smallest escort ship in the human convoy. The blast ripped through its hull, tearing metal apart. The ship's lights flickered and died, leaving it drifting helplessly. Inside, alarms screamed as the crew struggled to stay alive. On the horizon, Captain Laura Bennett's calm eyes hardened. Get them aboard. Launch rescue shuttles, now. Her crew moved fast, sending 2 small craft toward the crippled ship. In the background, tactical screens showed the Zorthon fleet adjusting position. They were preparing for more. The rescue teams worked quickly, pulling injured crew members into the shuttles. Flames and smoke filled the broken ship's corridors. But they managed to save most of the crew. The survivors were brought to the Horizon's medical bay, their faces pale and their uniforms burned. Laura knew what this attack meant. The first shot had been fired. The rules had changed. She sent a clear message to Fleet Command. Zorthons have attacked a human vessel. We are in active conflict. Request immediate support. Her voice was steady, but inside, she felt the weight of what was coming. Across the galaxy, in human space, her message triggered an instant response. In the Seoul Defense Council chambers, red alert lights flashed. Orders spread like fire through the network. Massive warships left their docks. Crew members raced aboard, securing weapons and strapping into stations. Commander Ethan Cole, aboard. The Dreadnought Sentinel received his briefing. His fleet was to move toward the Orion Arm at full speed. There would be no waiting for diplomacy. Back at the border, the Zorthons moved forward. Admiral Carther's voice filled the Horizon's bridge through an open channel. "Leave now, human, or your next ship will not survive." Laura answered with controlled precision. "You've already attacked us. We will defend ourselves and our people." Carther laughed quietly. "Your defense will not matter. You are outnumbered. You cannot win." Laura didn't respond. Instead, she gave a quick order to her tactical officer. "Arm forward weapons. Target their lead destroyer. If they fire again, we return fire without hesitation." The two fleets faced each other like predators circling in the dark. The convoy was trapped between them, slow and exposed. The Horizon's shields shimmered as the crew prepared for the worst. In the medical bay, injured crew from the destroyed escort ship listened to the quiet thrum of the engines, each of them wondering if they would survive the next few minutes. The traitor Varin, still on the edge of the battle zone, watched silently. His small ship's sensors picked up the heat signatures of approaching vessels. He knew they were human reinforcements, though still far enough to be hours away. The Zorthons, however, seemed unaware. Another flash of light broke the stillness. A second Zorthon shot, this time aimed at the Horizon, struck the shield's head-on. The impact shook the ship, making the crew grip their consoles. Laura's voice was clear and sharp. "Returned fire." Bright beams lanced from the Horizon's forward cannons, slamming into the Zorthon destroyer. Its shields flared brightly, then collapsed under the barrage. A final shot tore into its engines, sending the ship spinning out of control. The battle began in full. Zorthon cruisers opened fire, filling space with streaks of deadly light. The Horizon dodged and weaved, its gunners firing back with precision. One by one, the human convoy ships tried to push through the chaos, their engines burning at maximum power. On the Zorthon flagship, Carther gripped the edge of his command chair. He had expected the humans to fight, but he was surprised by the accuracy and speed of their response. His second officer shouted updates as their destroyer spun into the void. "Lead ship disabled. Second destroyer shields at 30%. Press the attack," Carther barked. "Overwhelm them before they can escape." The Horizon's hull shook again under heavy fire. Sparks flew across the bridge as panels overloaded. Laura ordered emergency power to shields and pushed her crew to hold the line. In her mind, she knew this was only the beginning. Once the human reinforcements arrived, the battle would change completely. She only had to survive long enough. Commander Ethan Cole's fleet raced through deep space, engines at maximum output. The Sentinel led the way, a massive silhouette against the stars. Around it, cruisers and frigates moved in formation. Inside the command deck, Ethan stood over the tactical map. The distance to the Horizon grew smaller with every second. He could almost hear the echo of weapons fire across the void. Meanwhile, Varin considered leaving, but something kept him in place. Perhaps it was curiosity. Perhaps it was the grim need to witness the truth he had spoken. He had warned Carther. And now the Zorthon admiral was tasting the first drops of what could become a storm. The Horizon fired again, targeting a Zorthon cruiser. The blast ripped through its port side, venting fire and debris into space. Another Zorthon ship broke formation to assist, leaving a gap for the convoy to slip toward open space. Laura seized the chance. "All convoy ships, move now. Horizon will cover your retreat." The convoy's engines flared, pushing them toward safety. The horizon took the brunt of the enemy's fury, shields weakening under constant attack. But somewhere beyond the border, the fastest human ships were minutes away. Reinforcements were coming, and when they arrived, the balance would shift. For now, the battle raged in the darkness, the first clash in what would soon become a war that neither side could stop. In the heart of human space, the news of the Zorthon attack spread through every command center and fleet base. Images of the crippled escort ship and the desperate rescue aboard. The horizon played on screens across the Sol Defense Council's chambers. Around a long table, the most senior admirals, intelligence chiefs, and political leaders sat in tense silence. Admiral Harper, a man with silver hair and a voice that carried authority, broke the stillness. The Zorthons have fired on us. They have destroyed one of our ships. There will be no turning back from this. A younger commander leaned forward. We could still attempt to negotiate. Perhaps they will. They won't. Harper cut in sharply. This is not a border misunderstanding. This is a test. They believe we will step back if they push hard enough. If we do, every other empire will see weakness. Across the table, Fleet Marshal Daniels spoke. Then we give them an answer. So clear no one will ever think of testing us again. The decision came quickly after that. Humanity would not answer with small strikes or warnings. They would deliver a single, devastating blow that would break the Zorthon Empire's ability to fight. The target list appeared on the central screen: fleet yards, shipbuilding stations, supply depots, and the main Zorthon command center. All would be hit at once. Back on the Dreadnought Sentinel, Commander Ethan Cole received the new orders. The rapid response mission was now part of a much larger plan. He was to lead a spearhead group straight to the Zorthon core worlds once the fleet was assembled. The goal was not just to defend, but to make sure the Zorthons could never threaten humanity again. On the horizon, Captain Laura Bennett was patched into the briefing. Her ship had survived the first clash, though its shields and weapons needed quick repairs. She listened as the plan was explained. The horizon would act as a forward unit, staying near the front lines and feeding real-time battle data to the incoming fleet. Laura accepted her role without hesitation. We'll be ready. In human shipyards across multiple star systems, activity reached a fever pitch. Massive carriers floated in dry dock, their hulls gleaming under bright lights as engineers and technicians raced to complete final checks. Crates of ammunition were loaded. Fighter squadrons tested their engines, and crews ran through battle drills. From the smallest corvette to the largest battleship, every vessel was prepared for the largest coordinated strike humanity had attempted in decades. Meanwhile, far away in Zorthon space, Admiral Carther sat in his flagship's private chamber. Reports of the battle with the horizon filled his data screen. One of his destroyers was lost, another heavily damaged. His cruisers had taken unexpected punishment. Still, he considered it a minor setback. The humans fight hard, he admitted to his second officer, but they cannot match our numbers. Soon their fleets will break. What Carther did not know was that scouts along the Zorthon border had already detected strange energy signatures, the kind that came from large fleets in motion. He dismissed them as rumors, unwilling to believe the humans could gather so much strength so quickly. The traitor, Varen, still shadowing the events from a safe distance, sent a final message. To Carther, your pride will cost you everything. They are coming for you, and they will not stop at victory. They will destroy your ability to ever threaten them again. Carther did not respond. In deep space, the human fleet began to take shape. The Sentinel took its place at the center of the formation, flanked by cruisers and destroyers. Curio. Groups moved behind them, their hangar bays filled with bombers and fighters ready for launch. Smaller escort ships formed protective screens around the larger vessels. The scale of the armada was unlike anything the humans had launched since the Krell Wars. Ethan stood on the Sentinel's bridge, watching the tactical display. Red icons marked the Zorthon fleet positions near their core systems. Blue icons. The human fleet grew in number as more ships arrived from jump points. "When we go," he told his crew, "we hit hard, we hit fast, and we don't stop until the job is done." On the horizon, Laura reviewed the updated attack routes. She could see her ships roll clearly now. They would move ahead of the main fleet, striking communications, relays, and sensor arrays to blind the Zorthons before the main attack. It was dangerous work, but she knew it could make the difference between a clean strike and a drawn-out battle. As the hours passed, preparations were completed. Ammunition counts were checked and rechecked. Engineers ran final power tests on shield generators. Medical teams stocked supplies for the inevitable casualties. Every person aboard every ship knew they were about to take part in a moment that would be remembered for generations. The order came through at last, simple and direct. All fleets, engage Operation Firelance. Ethan's voice was steady as he gave the command. Fleet, prepare to jump. On the horizon, Laura gave the same order, her crew responding with sharp, focused movements. Across the fleet, engines roared to life, and space itself seemed to shimmer as jump drives charged. In the silence before the jump, every person knew the truth. This was not a fight for territory. This was a message to the galaxy. Humanity would not be pushed, and those who tried would pay the highest price in Zorthon space. The Empire moved about its day, unaware of the storm racing toward it. That storm would arrive soon, and when it did, the shape of the galaxy would change for Reeve Asterisk in the days before the fleet strike. Another mission was already moving forward in the shadows. While the massive warships prepared for battle, small, silent vessels slipped away from human space and into the dark between the stars. These were not warships. They were infiltration craft designed to vanish into the background of space. Their mission was simple but dangerous: disable the Zorthon Empire's early warning systems before the main attack arrived. One of these ships, the Shadow Wing, carried intelligence officer Ryan Blake. Ryan had worked behind enemy lines before, but never against an empire as large as the Zorthons. His crew of 20 moved quietly through the cramped corridors, each knowing the importance of what they were about to do. If they failed, the Zorthons would see the human fleet coming and prepare their defenses. If they succeeded, the Empire would be blind when the storm struck. The Shadow Wing's route took them through abandoned mining systems, asteroid fields, and debris-strewn trade lanes that few ships dared to travel. The journey was slow and tense. They used stolen transponder codes to pass as a neutral shipping vessel, broadcasting fake cargo manifests and falsified routes. Every hour, Ryan checked their disguise against intercepted Zorthan patrol signals. Every hour, he reminded his crew to stay calm. At the same time, Captain Laura Bennett and the Horizon moved on a parallel path toward the outer edge of Zorthon space. Laura's role was to knock out communication relays on the border. Without those relays, the Zorthan fleets would be unable to call for reinforcements quickly. She studied maps and sensor data, committing every target location to memory. Ryan's first objective was a listening post on the moon of a gas giant deep in Zorthon territory. It was small, manned by only a handful of crew, but it was connected to a network that covered half the Empire's border. The Shadow Wing drifted into the moon's shadow, hidden from view. Using stealth shuttles, Ryan and 6 operatives landed. Near the post's power station, the ground was rough, covered in dark rock and ice. The team moved silently, their black suits blending into the shadows. Ryan's voice came over the comms, calm but firm. "Stay low. We disable the power grid, plant the disruptors, and leave. No one fires unless we're discovered. They reached the power station without alerting the guards. 2 engineers were inside, working at the consoles. Ryan signaled his team to hold position. With quick movements, they attached small black devices to the power conduits. The lights flickered, then dimmed completely. Within seconds, the post went silent. The disruptors would keep it that way for hours, asterisk. By the time the Zorthon crew realized something was wrong, the Shadow Wing was already drifting away, blending once more into the endless night. Ryan exhaled slowly, knowing the hardest part was yet to come. In another sector, Laura and the Horizon closed in on the first border relay station. It was heavily shielded but unmanned, an automated structure floating between 2 planets. Laura ordered her crew to approach at minimum speed. The plan was to destroy the relay with a single precise shot, leaving no chance for an emergency. Signal, target locked, her tactical officer confirmed. Fire, Laura said quietly. A bright beam cut through the darkness, striking the relay dead center. It exploded in a silent flash, scattering fragments into space. First target down, Laura reported to command. Moving to the next. Hours passed. Across Zorthon space, similar missions unfolded. Covert teams disabled sensor arrays, sabotaged data hubs, and planted false signals to confuse patrols. Each success widened the blind spots in the Empire's defenses. The Zorthons remained unaware that pieces of their security net were disappearing one by one. Ryan's next target was far riskier, a long-range scanner station orbiting a small red star. Unlike the listening post, this one was guarded by a full patrol ship. The Shadow Wing could not approach without being detected. Ryan decided on a different tactic. They would broadcast a distress signal using the stolen codes, posing as a damaged freighter in need of help. The patrol ship took the bait, moving away from the scanner station to investigate. As soon as it was clear, Ryan's shuttle darted forward. 2 technicians aboard the station were stunned into unconsciousness before they could raise an alarm. The disruptors went into place, and the scanner went dark. Minutes later, the patrol ship returned to find nothing but empty space. Back aboard the Horizon, Laura completed her final strike on the border relays. She now had a clear path to move deeper into enemy space when the fleet arrived. Her crew, though tired, worked with precision. They knew the timing was everything. Each minute gained for the fleet increased their chances of victory by the end of the second day. The Shadow Wing and several other infiltration ships had disabled a significant portion of the Zorthon detection network. The Empire's borders now had holes wide enough for the human fleet to slip through unnoticed, in the quiet, after the last mission. Ryan stood by the viewing port, watching the stars drift past. He knew the fleet was coming. He also knew that when they arrived, the Zorthons would have no warning until the first human weapons tore through their defenses. On the horizon, Laura received confirmation that the main attack would begin within hours. She turned to her crew. "We've done our part. Now it's time for the rest of the fleet to finish this." Somewhere in the depths of space, Admiral Carter still believed he had the upper hand. He would learn the truth soon, and when he did, it would be too late to stop it. Asterisk, the Zorthon Empire slept in false safety. Patrol ships moved along their routes. Border outposts sent their quiet reports. Admirals discussed plans for expansion. In brightly lit war rooms, none of them knew that the human fleet was already in motion, crossing into their space through the blind gaps carved out by Ryan, Laura, and the other infiltration teams. Admiral Sarah Kane stood on the command deck of the dreadnought Resolute. She was calm, but her eyes followed every report appearing on the main display. Around her, the crew moved with quiet focus. There was no shouting, no wasted motion. Every person aboard knew their role. The human fleet had been waiting for this moment, and now the time had come. Fleet status. She asked. All ships. In formation, engines steady. Weapons on standby, replied her operations officer. Sarah nodded. Then we advance. The fleet surged forward, thousands of ships moving as one. They kept their drives at low burn to avoid detection for as long as possible. The silence of space pressed around them, broken only by the quiet hum of systems inside each vessel. The crews knew they were heading straight into enemy territory, but none turned back. Far ahead, the first wave of attack craft broke formation and slipped into the darkness. These were the fleet's fast assault ships designed to strike hard and vanish before the enemy could react. Their targets were the Zorthon military stations guarding key supply routes. If those stations fell, the Empire's fleets would be cut off from reinforcements and fuel. One by one, the human assault ships struck. Explosions lit the void as the stations were destroyed. Zorthon crews scrambled to respond, but their communication systems were slow, disrupted by the earlier sabotage. The few distress calls that did go out were lost in a flood of false signals planted by human intelligence teams. Admiral Carther, sitting in his Grand Command Hall on the Zorthon capital world, received the first real warning hours later. Junior! Officer rushed into the chamber, breathless. Sir, several border stations have gone dark. We're detecting unknown vessels deep within our territory. Atera frowned. How deep? The officer hesitated. It's closer than they should be able to get without detection. Carther's hands tightened on the arms of his chair. Send word to the nearest fleets. Prepare the core defenses. But already, it was too late. The human fleet entered the first major Zorthon system without resistance. Civilian ships scattered, fleeing toward the inner planets. The humans ignored them, focusing instead on military targets. Orbital shipyards burned, fueling depots erupted in fire, and weapon platforms were torn apart. On the Resolute, Sarah Kane gave her orders with precision. Prioritize command hubs and supply lines. We are not here for glory. We are here to break their ability to fight. In another sector, Captain Laura Bennett and the Horizon joined the attack. Her ship's cannons roared, striking a Zorthon frigate before it could bring its shields online. The frigate's hull split apart, spilling debris into space. Laura's crew did not cheer. They simply moved on to the next target. Meanwhile, Ryan Blake's Shadow Wing reappeared on the battlefield, guiding missile salvos toward hidden defense satellites. His team had memorized the exact locations of these satellites during their infiltration missions. Each one was destroyed before it could transmit a single warning. Zorthon resistance began to gather. But without full communications, their forces moved in fragments. A small battle group tried to intercept the Resolute, but they were met by a wall of human firepower. Railguns and plasma cannons lit the darkness, and the Zorthon ships were reduced to wreckage in minutes. From his flagship, Admiral Carther finally saw the scope of the attack. The humans were not probing or testing defenses. They were tearing into the Empire with a precision that could only come from careful planning. His jaw clenched as he realized the warning from the alien envoy months ago had not been an exaggeration. Across the Empire, panic spread. Worlds that had never seen war suddenly faced the sight of human warships in their skies. Entire garrisons surrendered without firing a shot, unwilling to face the same fate as the destroyed stations. Others fought, but their weapons were too slow. Their tactics too predictable. The human fleet pressed deeper, always moving, never giving the Zorthons time to recover. In some systems, they left automated mines behind, ensuring no supply ships could follow. In others, they seized fuel reserves to power the next phase of the advance. In the middle of the chaos, Sarah Kane stood at the Resolute's command table, watching the map of the Empire shift. "They still do not see the full shape of our attack," she said to her staff. "By the time they do, their core worlds will already be in range." Hours later, the second wave of human ships arrived, heavier warships carrying the siege weapons meant for planetary assaults. Their arrival marked the moment the war turned from a rapid strike to a full invasion. On the Zorthon capital, Admiral Carther gathered his senior officers. His voice was sharp, but there was a shadow of fear in his eyes. "We will not let them reach this world," he said. "Every ship, every soldier, every weapon must be thrown into their path." But Sarah Kane had no intention of stopping. The humans had come with one goal: to make sure the Zorthon Empire could never again threaten them or anyone else. The fleet's next target was the heart of the Empire, and the path to it was already open. Asterisk. The human fleet moved like a storm. System after system fell in their path. The Zorthon defenders tried to regroup, but every time they formed a line, the humans were already behind them. The attack was not wild or chaotic, sharp. And planned to the smallest detail. Admiral Sarah Kane stood in the war room aboard the Resolute. The map showed the Zorthon Empire as a sea of red, with growing streaks of human blue cutting through it. The core worlds lay ahead, heavily fortified, but now exposed from multiple sides. Status of the Second Fleet. Sarah asked, entering position on the eastern approach. Her operations officer replied, "Third Fleet is moving from the south. All lines are converging." Sarah nodded. "Good. Keep pressure on the supply lines. If they cannot feed their fleets, they cannot fight." The Zorthon capital was in a state of fear. Sirens sounded across its cities. Families rushed into shelters. Soldiers were called back from distant colonies to protect the homeworld. Admiral Carther stood in his command center, glaring at the giant display. Reports came in every minute, each worse than the last. "Admiral," said one of his officers, "we have lost 3 more border fleets. The humans have taken the Uxari system. That was our main fuel depot for the northern defenses." Carther's claws scraped the table. "Then they will come from the north next. Repair the planetary shields. If they want our homeworld, they will have to burn for it." But Sarah Kane had no plan to rush into a frontal assault. She knew the Zorthons were counting on their heavy defenses. Instead, she ordered her fleets to cut off every route in and out of the core worlds. One by one, the systems around the capital were isolated. No food, no weapons, no reinforcements could reach them, in the shadows of a distant asteroid belt. Captain Laura Bennett's Horizon waited with her squadron. Their task was to intercept any Zorthon ships trying to escape. A convoy of transports appeared on the scanners, heading for deep space. "Targets confirmed," her weapons officer said. Laura gave the order. Missiles streaked from her ships, tearing through the convoy. The few survivors scattered, but none would make it far. The trap was closing. Meanwhile, Ryan Blake and the Shadow Wing carried out a different mission. They slipped into the inner defenses disguised as a damaged Zorthon patrol ship. Using stolen codes, they got close to a major communications hub and planted a virus. Within minutes, the entire Zorthon core command network was in chaos. Orders were scrambled, false messages sent, fleets sent to the wrong locations. The effect was immediate. Without clear orders, many Zorthon commanders hesitated to act. Others charged into battles without realizing they were walking into ambushes. Human forces took advantage of every mistake. Admiral Carter realized too late that the war was not just being fought with ships and weapons. The humans were fighting with information, speed, and fear. He called for his generals. If we are to survive, we must strike now, before they close the net completely. He ordered every remaining Zorthon warship to form a single, massive fleet. His plan was to smash through one section of the human lines and escape to regroup in the outer territories. It was a desperate gamble, but it was the only one left. Sarah Kane learned of the movement almost immediately. The virus planted by Ryan Blake had given her access to enemy fleet orders. She smiled faintly. "They're going to come to us," she said. "Good, let them." She ordered her ships to pull back slightly, opening a gap that looked like a weakness. Carter took the bait. His entire fleet surged toward the opening, engines blazing, hoping to break through before the humans could react. But as soon as the Zorthon ships entered the gap, human warships appeared from every side. The trap closed in seconds. Battleships. Cruisers and destroyers poured fire into the Zorthon formation. Railguns tore through shields. Plasma bursts melted armor. Explosions filled the void. Carter's fleet fought with fury, but they were surrounded. One by one, his ships were destroyed. His flagship took heavy damage, its hull breaking apart. Even then, he refused to surrender. His last message to the Empire was a short, grim warning: fight until the end. The battle was over within hours. Human losses were minimal. Zorthon resistance in the outer systems collapsed soon after. The path to the capital was now completely open. Sarah Kane stood before the main display. The red of the Zorthon Empire had shrunk to a small cluster of worlds at its center. "We finish this," she said quietly. "No more raids, no more traps. We take the heart." Her officers nodded. Across the fleet, crews prepared for the final assault. Weapons were reloaded. Engines were tuned. Messages were sent to every ship. The next battle would decide the fate of the war. On the Zorthon capital, the skies were filled with the glow of their planetary shields. People watched from the streets, silent and afraid. They had heard the stories. They knew what had happened to the outer worlds. The last act of the war was about to begin. The human fleet entered the Zorthon home system like a dark tide. Hundreds of warships moved together, their formation perfect and unbroken. The glow of the Zorthon capital world shone ahead, a blue-green jewel behind a shimmering wall of energy from its planetary shields. On the bridge of the Resolute, Admiral Sarah Kane stood with her hands behind her back. Her eyes were fixed on the world ahead. This was the end of the war. There would be no retreat, no pause. "Report," she said. "All fleets in position," her operations officer replied. "Shields on the target are at full power. Enemy ground batteries are active. Their orbital defense stations are armed." Sarah nodded slowly. "Begin Phase 1. From the flanks of the human formation, massive seed ships moved forward. Their railguns fired at extreme range, sending slugs the size of buildings into the Zorthon orbital defenses. One station exploded instantly, breaking apart in a flash of fire. The others returned fire, but the humans had positioned their heavy ships to take the hits, their layered armor absorbing most of the damage. On the Zorthon capital, Admiral Carter stood in the Defense Command Center. His uniform was torn, his eyes heavy with exhaustion, but his voice was still strong. "They will try to break our shields first," he told his staff. "Hold them as long as you can. Every hour we stand is another hour for reinforcements to arrive." But Carter knew the truth. There were no reinforcements left. The last fleets of the Empire were gone, scattered or destroyed. This was the final stand in orbit. The battle raged. Human destroyers darted in to clear a path for the seed ships, blasting smaller defense platforms out of existence. Plasma. Fire lit the void, turning the black of space into a storm of light. Captain Laura Bennett and her squadron moved in close, targeting shield generators on the orbital ring. Her ship's guns fired in rapid bursts, melting through armor. One by one, the generators flickered and went dark. Inside the Zorthon Shield Control Center, alarms screamed. The massive dome of energy around the planet began to weaken in places, tiny gaps forming and closing again. Engineers worked frantically, rerouting power. But the human bombardment was relentless. On the far side of the planet, Ryan Blake and the Shadow Wing carried out their most dangerous mission yet. Using the chaos of the battle, they slipped past the outer defenses and dove into the atmosphere. Their target was a shield relay station on the surface, hidden in the mountains. Flying low to avoid detection, they released a squad of Marines who stormed the facility. Within minutes, the relay was destroyed and a section of the planetary shield collapsed entirely. Gap in the shield. A human sensor officer called out. Coordinates locked. Sarah Kane's eyes narrowed. All ship's focus fire on. That breach, widen it. The concentrated barrage ripped at the hole in the shield until the entire western hemisphere of the planet lay exposed. Human warships moved in, firing on surface defenses and taking out missile batteries. On the ground, Zorthon civilians watched in silence as the sky lit up with streaks of fire. Entire defense bunkers vanished under precise orbital strikes. The Empire's leaders gathered in the capital's command chamber, their voices raised in fear and desperation. They will burn the city. One shouted, "They will burn the world." Another said quietly. Admiral Carther walked into the chamber. He looked at the leaders, then at the city outside the tall windows. "The humans have given us one chance before," he said. We did not take it. Now they will not ask again." Back in orbit, Sarah Kane received a transmission. It was Carther. His image appeared on the main screen, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "Admiral Kane," he said, "you have fought with skill. Your people have fought with honor. My empire has no ships left to send against you. My soldiers have no ground left to stand on. I will not see my world turn to ash. Name your terms." Sarah's voice was calm, but there was steel in it. Total surrender. All remaining warships will power down and be turned over to human control. All occupied human worlds will be freed. You will stand trial for the attacks that began this war. Accept these terms, and your world will live. Refuse, and this war ends in fire. Carther closed his eyes for a long moment. He thought of his soldiers, his people, and the burning skies above his home. When he opened them again, there was no fight left in them. "I accept." A signal was sent to all Zorthan forces. Weapons powered down. Shields fell. The human fleet held position. Their guns still ready, but no more shots were fired. Asterisk. Hours later, human landing craft touched down on the capital. Soldiers moved through the streets, not as conquerors, but as the enforcers of the peace they had fought for. The war was over. From orbit, Sarah Kane watched the planet slowly spin. Beneath her, the Zorthan Empire, once feared across the stars, was finished. Humanity had risen from a single threatened world to a power no one could ignore, and across the galaxy. Other empires watched and remembered the warning: do not attack the humans, because if you do, they will reduce your empire to ashes. Asterisk.